Yeah, so the number in front of the cosine or sine is the amplitude, okay? And so, like you guys asked on the bell work problem, 4.5 sine of theta, is that what it was? That is the amplitude, okay? And I think you saw what it did. What did it do? It stretched it vertically. And so how high did that function go, 4.5? 4.5, and how low did it go? Negative 4.5. So what's the range of the function? No, well, what's the range go from? From where to where? Yeah, and negative 4.5 to positive 4.5. So I want all A's. A's in your shoulder partnership. A's are the people. Thank you. A's are the people closest to the front of the room. I want all A's to tell all the B's what, in your own words, what you understand about amplitude. And then after 10 seconds, we'll switch around and B's tell the other person. Remember, verbalizing something helps you remember it longer. So all A's. You got 10 seconds. Go. Drake, did you not listen to anything I said? Drake, he's telling you. Well, we don't care right now. We're switch over. B's tell A's. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks. Okay. Oh, I went in there after I talked to you that day, and I told Taylor Josh wasn't there, and he goes, and I said Emily's going to freeze it, and he goes, well, why don't we just do it right now? And he went in and he said that they froze it, but it wasn't frozen. Okay, so now you froze it from where, when to when?
So March 1st will be unfrozen.
Okay. All right.
So yeah,
okay.
Started whatever day it was. They told me that it'll unfreeze March 1st.
So January 9th, it froze. Well,
they already had charged for this month.
So January,
yeah,
but
January,
I knew that.
But February won't be charged.
Okay. All right. So it just won't charge me for February.
Yeah.
So okay. Thanks. Okay. Just put excused on it. Turn it in. No. Actually, don't even turn it in. Just save that one for next time. I'll just mark it down excused. Okay. Okay. Now I want you guys to take your calculators. And by the way, I didn't talk about this, but what does it mean when it says set your window on your calculator to negative 4 pi is less than theta is less than 4 pi? What does that mean? Yeah, x min is negative 4 pi, x max is positive 4 pi. So in radian mode, this should be the same window, except for I don't know, did we have the range from negative 5 to positive 5 last time? Yeah, we did. Okay, I want you to graph these in here. I want you to answer, what do you learn about A and by the way, my last class, I'll put theta in there. What should we put in there? X, because X is the variable on the calculator. It really doesn't matter what we call it, but if you use the theta on the calculator is actually has a signed number to it. It will give you a weird answer. Okay, so I want you to go. So put those all three in there, graph it, and I want you to answer these two questions in your group. Was I recording my conversation with? In other words, this one starts up here at whatever the amplitude is. So the first one starts right here and goes up down like that. The next one starts right here and goes down a little bit further, right? And this one, the one that starts at 4 goes down like this, goes back up like that one, right? So it starts at 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 4 on these things right here. So what's the difference between a sine and a cosine function? But I mean, what's the difference in where they start? Cosine starts at what? Give me two coordinates. You're on the right track. 0, comma A. Okay? So cosine starts at 0, comma whatever A is, right? Does that make sense? And sine starts at 0, comma 0 no matter what. Got that?
Yep.
Okay, now this one right here. What do you think? You guys could probably figure this one out without graphing it. This one's going to start -3, 0, -3, 0, -5. What's the range of this one going to be? -5 to +5, right? Okay. And so if theta is 0, what is the value of y? Whatever a is, right? Whatever a is. Okay. Let's go to this one. I want everybody to do this. Write a sine function with an amplitude of 1.5. Just write it down. Don't put in your calculator. Just write a sine function with an amplitude of 1.5, and then write a cosine function with an amplitude of -4. Then share it with everybody at your table. See if you guys get the same things. All right. So would it be right? Technically not. Yes. It says write a sine function. Yeah. A sine function is an equation. I could write it in function notation, but this is a function. This is a function. A function is an equation that no two x values go to the same y value. No one x value goes to two different y values. Yeah, that's not right now. Okay, now this one right here, you guys, write an equation for this function. Write an equation for this function. Go ahead, in your groups. Okay, write an equation for this one. I'm going to pick a group. I'm going to pick a group. Okay, that group back there. Hey, at least you asked. Hannah, did you really want to come up here? Jenny? Ryan?
I wanted to.
Okay.
I just choked on my own spot.
Okay. What do you guys think? Is she right? How many of you got that?
And
Hey, where did my
pi needs to be between -pi.
Okay, that's right. Okay, now we are going to move on to finding period of a function. Okay? Now, let me remind you guys all that we've already learned about period of a sine and cosine function. We know that every function that we've studied so far starts at 0. One cycle of it starts at 0 and ends at 2 pi. And we know it keeps repeating that pattern. So every 2 pi, it's going to repeat the same exact pattern. Cosine functions do the same thing. And so since it completes one pattern between 0 and 2 pi, we say that that's the period of it. That's the periodic nature of it. So the period of the sine and cosine function are both 2 pi. Okay? Now, you will recall that the period of the y equals sine theta and y equals cosine theta is 2 pi. That's what we just talked about. That means one cycle takes place between 0 and 2 pi. Any questions on that? Anybody not understand period? Okay. Right here. We change the period by multiplying by theta by a number k. For example, I want you guys to see this. Y equals sine of k theta or y equals cosine of k theta. How does this different than the amplitude we were just studying? Okay. Yeah, a was before the sine and cosine, and now k is after the sine before the theta, right? And it's being multiplied by the variable. Can I use x here instead of theta? Yeah. K usually stands for a constant, though. It stands for a real number. Okay, so it could be something like y equals sine of 4 theta. And then that's where we would want to use parentheses, by the way. So y equals sine of 4 theta is an example of that. And what that does is it changes the period. Instead of the period going between 0 and 2 pi, it's either going to stretch it out. It's kind of like taking an accordion, stretching it out, or compressing it. Stretching it out makes the waves really big and long. Shrinking it or pushing it in is going to make a lot of waves happen, right?
We've already learned about parabolic and linear functions, and now we're just learning about sine functions and how you control those.
Trig functions, how we control them. Yeah. So you know how we did, I mean, Colby's exactly right. Remember how early in the year we learned how to transform functions, move them around, change the shape of them? Now we're going to do that with the trig functions. That's what we're doing. Okay? So, very important formula. Everybody needs to write this down. The formula for finding the period is P equals 2 pi over K. Write this down, and then I'm going to have you verbalize it here in just a second. Go ahead. We're going to compare these two functions. Y equals sine of theta, and y equals 2 sine of theta. I want everybody to put them in your calculator right now. Pay attention to which one is the sine of theta and which one is the sine of 2 theta as you graph it in there. And look at the graph and study it. And I want you to tell me, what does the period of the second one seem to be? In other words, how far does it go to complete one cycle? How far does it take to complete one cycle? So how long, what does the period of the second one seem to be? Pi. Because the first one, you guys, if we graphed it, you guys are set to 4 pi, right? So it looks like this. And so you saw two functions, but 2 pi was right here, right? And then your second one, it completed one cycle by the time we got right here, didn't it? So then you saw another cycle complete before you got to 2 pi. And then you saw another cycle complete before you got to 3 pi, and another cycle complete when you got to 4 pi, right there. So it only took till you got to pi for it to complete one cycle. Well, I want you guys to think about that formula we just used, that we just learned. It says, now use the formula P equals 2 pi over K to determine the period. So everybody, if I did this, P equals what? 2 pi over 2. Because I put 2 in for K, because that's what K is. Right here is K. And those cancel out, and I get period equals pi. So do you see how to figure it out? Now, what we're going to be doing later on is we're going to be using this formula, P equals 2 pi K. And sometimes I'm going to give you the P, and you got to solve for K. Sometimes I'm going to give you K, and you solve for P. Okay? And you got to be able to, if given the period, you got to find out what K is going to be. Now, you can determine the period by just studying the graph and say, okay, how many cycles take place between 0 and, I mean, how long does it take for one cycle to take place? If it takes place between 0 and pi halves, okay, then you know that you know one cycle took place between 0 and pi halves, and so somehow, the period would be pi halves, so you know you got to figure out what goes in for K to get that number right there. Okay, let's do this one right here. I'm out of finish writing the lesson. Let's go this one right here. I want you guys given a graph. I'm going to give the graph right here. I'm going to go pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. And I want you guys to figure out, and this is going to be 1, and this is going to be -1. And I want you guys to tell me what the period of this function is. Discuss it in your groups. Go ahead. I'm going to give you a minute. Okay, so we're finding the period and find K. No, the period is 4 pi. The period is 4 pi because it took from 0 to 4 pi for one cycle to happen. How many of you had that? How many of you had that? All right, good.
Why did you give us an assignment to do the period when you're not
Because you already knew all of them were 2 pi.
What?
I didn't give you an assignment to do period. We learned by doing that thing that all the period of the sine and cosine function is 2 pi.
But it was also just graphs. It was not
All the periods are 2 pi. They just wanted to show you that like that photo in time of what happened. Okay, it was. All right, now find k. What is k? It's what? 0.5. Yeah. Because look, if I use the formula p equals 2 pi over k, and I substitute 4 pi in, 4 pi equals 2 pi over k. To solve that equation, I would times both sides by k to get the k out of the denominator. That would get it right there. And then I would divide both sides by 4 pi. And so these would cancel out, and I get k equals 2 pi over 4 pi, which the pi's cancel out, and 2/4 reduces to 1/2. So if I was to write the equation for this, equals, what would it say? Cosine? I mean, not k. 1/2 x. Or 0.5x. You can use a decimal if you want. Okay? Do you understand that? Yeah. Okay? I'm going to give you another one.
If I do this, this will make them so confused.
You assume way too much, Colby. All right. Okay, here you go. I want you guys to write the equation for this function. In order to do it, you're going to need to know what the period is and k is, right? So I want you to do it in this order. Find the period, find k, and then write the equation. Okay, in your groups, go ahead. Okay, so, yeah, it looks like you guys got it just fine. -3 sine of 1/4 x. So what we all got? Now, the question came up a couple of times so you don't need the period in the equation. You don't. What is the period of this function? It's 8 pi because it takes clear to 8 pi to finish this. So if I go 8 pi is equal to 2 pi over k and solve that comes out to be k equals 2 pi over 8 pi, right? Pi's cancel out, 2/8 reduces to 1/4. That's how you guys got k, right? And it starts at 0, 0, which means it's a sine function. It goes down, which means it's a negative, and it goes down to -3, so it's y equals -3 sine of 1/4 x. Okay? I think you guys get the idea. Here is your assignment. Hey, you guys, it just looks long, but it's pretty fast to find the amplitude, right? Okay. Lesson 6-4. Page 373. 17 through 22. 24. 27. 28. No, that's 29.
24 through 27?
No. 29. 31. Should I keep going? 36. 37. 42. 43. Silent Fox. Silent Llama. 49 through 52. Now, hey guys, this is not as long a time as it looks.